Why do aircraft fuel metering systems for reciprocating engines have mixture controls? The air density decreases as the aircraft ascends, causing the mixture to become richer. The mixture control allows the fuel to be decreased to maintain a fuel-air mixture ratio that produces the desired power. What does an air-fuel mixture ratio of 12:1 represent? This represents an air-fuel mixture ratio of 12 pounds of air and 1 pound of fuel. What is the function of a float carburetor? The float carburetor's function is to measure the airflow through the engine's induction system and dispense the appropriate amount of gasoline into the airflow for all engine operating parameters and conditions. It must also provide the fuel in a state that is vaporized as possible by the time ignition occurs in the engine cylinders. What two things are adjusted when setting the idling conditions for a float carburetor? Idling RPM by adjusting the throttle stop, and idling mixture by adjusting the idle needle valve. What would likely cause a reciprocating engine equipped with a float carburetor to hesitate momentarily when the throttle is rapidly advanced from idle to full power? A malfunctioning accelerator pump. How does a pressure type carburetor operate? A pressure type carburetor discharges fuel into the airstream at a pressure well above atmospheric. This results in better vaporization and permits the discharge of fuel into the airstream on engine side of the throttle valve. With the discharge nozzle located at this point, the drop in temperature due to fuel vaporization takes place after the air has passed the throttle valve and at a point where the engine heat tends to offset it. Thus, the danger of fuel vaporization icing is practically eliminated. The effects of rapid maneuvers and rough air on a pressure-type carburetors are negligible since its fuel chambers remain filled under all operating conditions. What are two types of fuel injection systems used on modern reciprocating aircraft engines? Teledyne Continental System and Precision Aeromotive System. What is used in the TCM fuel injection system to control the amount of fuel sent to the nozzles? The engine speed determines the injector pump output pressure. The relief valve determines the fuel for low-speed operation, and the adjustable orifice determines the fuel for high-speed operation. What is used in the Precision Aeromotive System to control the amount of fuel sent to the nozzles? The mass of the air entering the engine acts on the air diaphragm that controls a servo ball valve in the line between the regulator and the flow divider. What is a FADEC? A full authority digital electronic control is a high precision digital electronic fuel control that functions during all engine operations. It includes the electronic engine control and functions with the flight management computer to measure the fuel to the nozzles in such a way that prevents overshooting of power changes and over temperature conditions. FADEC furnishes information to the engine indicating the crew alerting system. Does a turbine engine controlled by FADEC require minimal trimming? No, this is done by the FADEC. What are the basic principles of a hydromechanical fuel control? A pure hydromechanical fuel control has no electronic interface assisting in computing or metering the fuel flow. It also is generally driven by the gas generator gear train of the engine to sense engine speed. Other mechanical engine parameters that are sensed are compressed discharge pressure, burner pressure, exhaust temperature, and inlet air temperature and pressure. Once the computing section determines the correct amount of fuel flow, the metering section through cams and servo valves delivers the fuel to the engine fuel system. What are two basic types of fuel nozzles? Simplex and duplex configurations. Why does a duplex fuel nozzle usually require a dual fuel manifold? The duplex nozzle usually requires a dual manifold and pressurization valve or flow divider for dividing primary and secondary fuel flows. What is the advantage of a duplex fuel nozzle? The duplex nozzle offers a desirable spray pattern for combustion over a wide range of operating pressures. What parameters are normally sensed by a turbine engine fuel control? Power lever angle, compressor inlet total temperature, compressor RPM, burner pressure. What is meant by trimming of a turbine engine? adjusting the fuel control for a proper specific gravity of the fuel and for the proper idle and full throttle RPM. What are two types of electronic fuel controls for turbine engines? Supervisory electronic engine control and full authority digital electronic control. What position should the flight deck fuel metering control be set to for starting a turbine engine? The normal starting sequence is rotate the compressor with the starter, turn the ignition on, and open the engine fuel valve either by moving the throttle to idle or by moving a fuel shutoff lever or turning a switch. What specifications are used to trim a turbine engine? The data plate specifications for the specific engine. This data was obtained when the engine was calibrated in the manufacturer's test cell. Where should ambient temperature be measured when trimming a turbine engine? In a shaded area as near the engine inlet as. When should a turbine engine be retrimmed? Anytime there is a decrease in engine thrust and after any maintenance that the manufacturer specifies are required retrimming. Are the instruments installed in an aircraft suitable for use when trimming a turbine engine? No, a special analyzer/trimmer such as jet cowl should be used. Where are the fuel strainers normally located in an aircraft fuel system? Fuel strainers are located in the tank outlet. The main strainer is located at the lowest point in the fuel system, and there are strainers in the carburetor or fuel injection system. How can you tell when the fuel strainer for a turbine engine has been bypassed? There is an indicator button that will pop out. This button is usually painted red for easy identification of a bypass condition. What are two types of fuel heaters used in a jet transport aircraft? Air-to-fuel and oil-to-fuel heat exchangers. How are fuel lines often protected in an engine compartment? By wrapping the lines with a fire protection sleeve to protect from fire and abrasion. What is the purpose of a ley line on a flexible fuel hose? To monitor fuel hose twist, hoses should be installed without twisting. What kind of fuel boost pumps are normally installed inside fuel tanks? Centrifugal pumps. What are three functions of boost pumps in the tank of a jet transport aircraft? To pressurize the fuel in the line between the tank and the engine-driven pump, to transfer fuel from one tank to another to balance the fuel load, to pump the fuel from the tank into the dump chute when the fuel is being dumped. What is meant by compensated fuel pump? It is a fuel pump that senses the ambient air pressure and maintains the fuel pressure a specific amount above this air pressure. What are the two types or categories of engine-driven fuel pumps? Non-constant displacement and non-positive displacement. What are the three basic types of valves used in fuel systems? Cone type, poppet type, and gate valves. What are the three most common types of fuel filters? The micron filter, the wafer screen filter, and the plain screen mesh filter. Why do some aircraft filters have a relief valve? If the fuel screen or filter becomes clogged, the relief valve will allow the fuel to continue to flow to the engine. Where are the fuel drains located in an aircraft engine? On a turbine engine, combustion chambers have a drain valve that drains the fuel that accumulates in the combustion chamber after each shutdown, or any fuel that may have accumulated during a false start. Many reciprocating engines have drain valves in the intake manifold that open when the engine is not running. These drains remove excess fuel if the engine is flooded from over-priming or an unsuccessful engine start.